Chibri smiled. I'm just kidding, of course, said Chibri. That's good. I wouldn't want you toasting anyone really, unless we absolutely had to, said Samuel. Right. Unless we really had to, said Chibri, eyeing Rowan dismissively. Rowan grinned a tight smile at Chibri. They moved to where the fire had been, which had died down, and Averly checked the pots. The water had cooled, but had still warmed in the sunshine. She dipped a finger into the pot to see how it felt. We can feel the water skins now, said Averly. That's great. Thanks for taking care of the water for us, said Rowan. Can I try some of that? Asked Samuel, motioning to the pot closest to him. Averly handed the pot to him. Samuel took a long swig from the pot, gulping slowly. When he was finished, he let out a large breath and wiped his lips. That was great, said Samuel. Really? Asked Averly. Think of how it had looked when she'd started? Yes, it tastes like mineral water, said Samuel. That's what it is, said Ron. They filled their water skins until they gurgled with the purple-tinted liquid, and the group gathered the lunches from their bags. Averly grabbed her tent from her bag, as it was the largest, and set it up as a makeshift sunshade for them to enjoy their lunches under. They sat under it and ate. Rose and Samuel laid out at full length to let their aching muscles rest, and Averly studied the runes on the smoke spells to see what she could see. Between that and the fire spell she had been studying the day prior, Rowan and Barkland sat and chatted about Barkland's newfound ability with the bow. Barkland thanked Rowan for showing him how to use his eyes without his glasses. I always thought that I needed my glasses for everything, said Barkland. I found that for some, if they need it to see things that are close, they don't necessarily need them to see things that are far away as well. Luckily, you're of that ilk, said Rowan. Yes, that is lucky, isn't it, said Barkland. Maybe you could try leaving the glasses off except for reading for a while to get used to being able to use your weapon as needed. It wouldn't stop you from reading when the time allowed for it, but it would mean you wouldn't be wasting time taking them off when time came to use it, said Ron. I could do that, said Barkland. Good, said Ron, smiling up at Barkland. They finished their rations and lazed under the afternoon sun. When Rowan was ready, he had Averly pack up her tent, and he consulted the maps he kept attached to a spiral-bound booklet around his belt on a pull string. Next to this, on another spool, he kept a small red mat-coated tin compass, which he popped open and held in his paw while positioning himself relative to the map's whereabouts. When he was happy with where they were needed to be heading, they did a few light stretches like they had done that morning and set off with Rowan in the lead. The group walked for the rest of the afternoon in relative quiet, with Rowan checking his map book and consulting his compass frequently, making sure they were on the right path to the next watering hole. The grounds continued on the same scrubby manner, long grasses and sandy dirt, interlaced with sparse knotty trees reaching their gnarled limbs to the sky. The air was changing. It was getting hotter and drier than it had been when they were closer to the forest, and when the wind blew, sand rose up to meet them, stinging their faces. Rowan instructed them to wear bandanas around their mouths, which they had packed, and it made it easier, but the sand still stung at their eyes when the winds picked up fast enough. They reached the waterhole that night, nearing exhaustion, and began to set up camp. The grounds were still damp, and Barkland found it difficult to find a proper place to set up his tent. The first time he thought he had it, and went to lay out his bedroll and lie down on it, he had begun to sink into the ground with it, and had yelled out. Samuel raced over and pulled him up out of the beginnings of the sinkhole. Rowan was standing over the two of them. Be careful, said Rowan, scowling at Barkland. Test the grounds with the pole before you set anything down. If the pole sinks, so will you, said Rowan, as he proceeded to stab at the ground with his staff, watching it sink halfway up to its length around the edges of Barkland's bedroll. Rowan pulled his staff out of the sandy dirt and began wiping it on his pant leg. If you had fallen asleep there, we never would have found you in the morning, said Rowan. Barkland looked at the holes where Rowan's staff had been. The dirt around them was flowing inwards towards themselves, picking up speed. He bent down and quickly picked up his bedroll. Barkland took one of the poles from his tent and began testing the ground around him, as did the others, until they had all found suitable areas to secure their tents. They laid scattered around each other, but each of them were relatively safe from the dangers of the ground for that night. Averly gathered as much dried grass as she could and lit the night's fire on a firm patch of ground to the right of camp. Rose had identified the area suitable for sitting with her staff after finishing her tent before the others. Barkland and the others came and sat down and ate their meal. Barkland was still shaken from feeling the ground begin to suck him into it. The cold feeling of being pulled down to something much larger than himself had frightened him. He stared at the fire wordlessly. Chibri stared at him for a while between the smoke and flames of the grass fire. You all right, Barkland? Asked Chibri. Barkland looked at her and nodded slowly. Did that scare you? Asked Chibri. Barkland remained quiet for a bit, then nodded. It's scary when the world shows you what it can do, isn't it? Asked Rose. It wasn't fun, replied Barkland. It was over pretty quickly, said Samuel, chewing his dried potato. Barkland shook his head. It was so quick, though. It felt like I was falling into the ground, like it had me, said Barkland. That's why you must always be on your guard, said Ron. If you always pay attention and you know what to do when unexpected things like this happen, like keeping a level head, you'll almost always be able to handle whatever happens to you. Rose nodded. That's good advice, said Rose. How do I know what to do when something unexpected happens if it's unexpected? Asked Barkland, mildly annoyed. By keeping a level head at all times and paying attention, said Ron. I thought he made that pretty clear, said Rose, smiling. Barkland nodded slowly. I guess you did, said Barkland. Chibri nodded, bobbing gently up and down where she rested. You'll get the hang of it, said Rowan, biting into his dried turnip and chewing it slowly. They ate their meals and watched the stars come out. Samuel turned to Chibri. Do you remember what it's like where you come from at all, Chibri? Asked Samuel. Chibri thought for a moment. I think so. Why do you ask? Replied Chibri. I was just curious as to what it's like over on the other side of wherever it is you come from, said Samuel. I would be curious about that as well, offered Rowan, not looking up from the fire. Chibri squinted one eye and thought about it. Well, as far as I can remember, it's all like this place, except things act differently. Time moves in a different direction, said Chibri. What do you mean a different direction? Like backwards? Asked Averly. No, not in an opposite way. It just doesn't move in a linear fashion. It has these little pockets of being on or being off, and as you go between the two states, it affects you differently. It's hard to explain. That's one of the first major differences, said Chibri. So you'll be in one place and things will be working just fine, and then you'll go somewhere else and time makes no difference whatsoever? Asked Barkland, a look of eager surprise rising over his face. Right, it has something to do with how many other elementals are around you, the amount of magic that's being used and where it's happening, said Chibri. What else is different? Asked Hurst. Well, the environments are different as well. We all live in states of ether. So if you're a fire elemental, you're just living in a state of pure heat. Water lives in a state of pure damp. Stuff like that, said Chibri, scratching her chin with what would be one ethereal hand. What happens when two of those types of elementals would touch? Would you get a steam elemental in the middle? Asked Samuel. Chibri shook her head. No, of course not. Magic of different types creates natural barriers from one another, and it stops them from interacting with each other even at that level. They just sort of rub up against each other without doing any damage of any kind. If they want to hurt each other, they could, I suppose, but elementals tend to be peaceful with one another. They just want to get on with their days, said Chibri. Do you have a family back home? Asked Samuel. Chibri nodded. I do, of a kind. We're all one part of the same thing, so we're all one element. So one part of the same whole. One fire elemental is a cousin to another fire elemental, who are cousins to another fire elemental. There's a leading fire elemental, Ratah, because he's the largest, strongest, and oldest at the moment, and he's led us for as long as we can all remember. He may be the first fire elemental for all I know, but as far as family go, we're all just cousins. Do you miss being back there? Asked Rose. Chibri rolled her head back and forth. Yes and no. When I was first captured, the only thing I wanted was to go home. But now that I've been around you folks for a while and I've gotten to know you all, I'm having fun and I want to see where things are heading. I'm enjoying myself and I'm looking forward to see where we end up. And if I'm being honest, I want to see what Sam can do with me, said Chibri, pointing at Samuel with one flaming finger. Samuel nodded. Once we figure out your purpose, it shouldn't be too hard to get you back home to your family, said Samuel. No rush, said Chibri. Like I said, I'm quite happy where I am at the moment. This is all fun and games so far, and as I'm concerned, better than the Ram's damp cave any day. Be that as it may, we should call it a night and get some rest. We've still got days ahead of us, and it's only going to get harder. Tomorrow will be the same as today, trekking, sparring, and then more trekking. We'll repeat that until we get to the city of Azerland, said Ron. They finished their meals, and once the fire had burned itself low, they went to bed. So I just signed up for Anchor's funding platform for the podcasters. It seems like a better deal than Patreon at the moment. So I would ask that you click the button that says donate and maybe donate $1 or $5 or $10 a month to us so that we can keep going. And I can produce almost daily or daily podcasts or more in the way that I've been going. And I'll produce book after book after book after book, and then I'll read through them. And I'll keep doing that until I can't see an end to it. It's so much fun. It really is. So please go to anchor.fm/divergentmind and click the donate button, and that'll help me out a whole bunch. Thank you so much. Jay. Okay, well, I'm taking a break, so I might as well do some ads. This is my first one, so bear with me. So, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That's pretty cool. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And all you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Please visit anchor.fm/divergentmind to leave a message so that I may get back to you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hi everybody. So I've made a new store called animalquest.shop, and I made my first shirt, Barkland Reading, at the Amberstone's house, and I would ask that you go and buy those there. I'll make a few bucks each time you buy something from there, and I have men, women's, baby clothing, and buttons, as well as other accessories, including dog bandanas, which I think are pretty cool. And I'll be adding more merch every week or two for that store as the stories progress and the sequels are written and read. I'll do the same for Divergent Mind. The link again is animalquest.shop. The link for Divergent Mind will be divergentmind.shop as well. Thank you so much. Jay. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that I have a YouTube channel called Taught Myself, and that I've decided to start selling merch already with a phrase that my brother showed me saying, "My disability is invisible," of which I made a hat for myself. So I decided to make hats, shirts, hoodies, for both men and women on Spreadshirt.com. All you have to do is search for "My disability is invisible." It's in green, and that's mine. You'll know it's me because when you click the sale icon, the same little Divergent Mind icon comes up, and I hope you'll support me. I make about $5 per shirt or per sale. Everything else goes to Spreadshirt, but that's okay because it's still a better deal than a lot of other places. And I really hope you'll support me. Come check me out on the YouTube. Teach me how to do that properly so I can have a community there too. And I await your response. Have a lovely day. Jay.
Hey people, take a listen to the Divergent Mind podcast. You get both insight into living with a serious mental illness and get to listen to a lovely tale about a journey cute little animals need to take. Don't miss out, and remember, divergent minds don't need to think alike.
Please go to ratethispodcast.com/divergentmind and tell me what you think. Thank you very much. Yours truly, Jay.